So today I thought I'd go through my box of mathematical games. Right, what have we here? Well, first off is a poker machine that I got from Las Vegas about 20 years ago. Simply press deal draw and then again, and you can hold the 10, 9, 8, 7 and hope for a 6 and then deal draw again, and I didn't win. There's the number of credits there, 70. You start off with 100 and see how many you get. Hours of fun. Next was one of these beautiful wooden tile puzzles where you just had to get the pattern on the pieces to be continuous, and as you can see there, I haven't quite solved it properly. Again, hours of fun. Now, this was something from the 50s. This is a variation on the game of solitaire with the pegs in the holes, except this time, instead of having pegs where you end up with one peg in the middle, the idea was to put the black peg in the middle, and any of the rows, columns or diagonals were all supposed to have different colours. So quite a simple sort of idea there. Next is the ancient game of tangos from China, where you have the 7 pieces, and the idea is just to make up patterns on cards, and you just competed against each other. So there was one black set of 7 pieces and one red set of 7 pieces. Very nice. Next we have good old-fashioned Rubik's cubes, this one from the early 80s, one of the original ones. And also an order 4 Rubik's cube, definitely unsolved. And that took totally different strategy, I believe, but there you go. Here is one of those chess sets that you used to get on holiday in Spain. Beautifully made out of wood, and inside were your chess pieces, and there's even some good old-fashioned jacks in there. But again, very nicely made, very popular. Then a rather old set of dominoes, probably from the 50s by the look of the packaging, except that these were all colour rather than the old-fashioned white dominoes, and again rather nicely made. This is just a tile game where you had to arrange it like a magic square to add up to 264, but the interesting thing was that the tiles could be 2 different numbers by turning them upside down. But you had to be quite good at maths to add them up. But the rows, the columns and the diagonals all had to add up to 264. Now the next thing is a good old-fashioned wooden puzzle. This is a rather beautiful Africa puzzle where the pieces are 3-dimensional and they have rather beautiful depth to them and fit beautifully into this shape of Africa. A lot more difficult to do than you would think. And there's a couple of the big 5 there. In fact, there's a lion there and what looks like a hippo there. Now the next game came out shortly after the Rubik's Cube, and this was a Rubik's Rings on a sort of 8 tile game where you had to get the rings, 3 rings, and get them all to join up on both sides. It was one of the many Rubik's type games, but this was just extra specially fascinating because of the way it folded and could be moved around. Next, a couple of the Magic Eye postcards. And you could either do these or you couldn't, but basically they came up with three-dimensional pictures. You used to defocus and look around sort of here, and you could see pictures in them. Good old-fashioned three-dimensional noughts and crosses. Quite a good game, that one. And then if you go to any novelty shop, you'll see loads of these sort of things. They're wooden puzzles, and once you broke them apart, you could never get them back together again, but they came in very interesting sort of shapes that you had to make up, usually in about 16 pieces. The next item, I could do a whole video on its own. This is a handheld Space Invader machine from the late 70s, early 80s. Basically 6 AAs, and it did a good simulation of Space Invaders. Let's try and get it to work. Yeah. Oh, I've been hit. Score of 16, so obviously very good there. There was also a pro mode which just made everything twice as fast basically. And all the sound effects were just all speeded up as well. So similar sort of game there. Now the next thing was rather an interesting anomaly. You had this black and white disc, and if you spun it, the bars would change into colours. I'll try and demonstrate this, but it probably won't work on camera. But let's just have a look. I'll just try speeding up. Next, a Hexaflexagon. Pink on one side, orange on the other, but if you folded it, it would flex and another colour would be revealed. So we would have purple on one side and orange on the other, and then you could flex it again, back to pink, and then orange, and then blue. And you'd fascinate people by exposing more and more colours. Black. And finally, in a Bourneville chocolate box were lots of games that I handmade myself. This is a pentominoes board, a 10 by 6 rectangle of squares and 12 pentomino pieces, each comprising of 5 squares. So the plus is 5 squares and the T piece is 5 squares, and they would fit jigsaw fashion into that square grid or into that rectangular grid. There were also hexaimons, which was effectively a triangular version of the same thing, with 6 equilateral triangles, and these pieces would fit onto a triangular template. My favourite puzzle of all is this rather nice 2-piece 3-dimensional jigsaw, same pieces, and you had to fit them together to form a pyramid, and you just put the 2 square pieces together and that made a pyramid. So there it is, some of the things in my mathematical puzzles box.